Hi, welcome to today's webinar as part of the KaiNexus Continuous Improvement webinar series. It's titled, What PE Teachers and PEX Professionals Have in Common. I'm Mark Graben, your host and moderator today. I'm a senior advisor with KaiNexus on behalf of the entire KaiNexus team. Thank you to everybody for joining us today, and thank you to our presenter, Shawna Forst, who's joining us from MercyOne Newton Medical Center in Iowa. You'll learn more about Shawna in a minute when I more formally introduce her, and she's going to tell us more about her career arc and what being a PE teacher and a PEX professional, what we can learn from those different fields. Okay, before I hand things over to our presenter, let me tell you a little bit more about Shawna Forst. So Shawna is the Performance Excellence Quality and Risk Coordinator and Lean Healthcare Coach at MercyOne Newton Medical Center. Shawna has been a lean healthcare facilitator since January 2007 and has 2 years of experience as a technician in a cardiac unit. She's had various roles in healthcare quality and safety. Shawna graduated from Simpson College in 2002 with a BA in physical education with a coaching endorsement. There's the PE. And in 2010, she became a certified professional in healthcare quality, a CPHQ, and received her Lean Green Belt certification in 2014. So there's the PEX. Shawna also received her master's in business administration from Western Governors University. So with that, thank you for joining us, and thank you, Shawna, for doing the session. I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome. Thank you for taking time to listen to my story. This topic has been on my mind for quite some time. Throughout my 20 years in healthcare quality, I've had a running list of things I thought a PE teacher or a coach and my new career in performance excellence had in common. It's a little funny to see their similarities, especially when people find out I'm not a nurse. If you had told me back when I was a teacher that I would only be employed with a school for a couple of years out of college, I probably would have laughed in your face. I thought I was going to be that PE teacher that was there for 30, 40 years. But now looking back, I guess I was exactly where I was supposed to be all these years. So my 17-year-old self, turning 18 the summer after my senior year in high school, I had the desire to be a beautician. My mother didn't have a problem with that, but she really encouraged me to attend a four-year college and said, if you still want to do hair after that, you can. And I knew I liked kids and I liked sports. So I decided I wanted to be a PE teacher and coach. And I thought I would have the summers off and I wouldn't have to grade homework. So it sounded like a pretty good thing. 2 years after I was a phys ed teacher, the principal of my middle school that I was teaching at came to me and told me that there were going to be severe budget cuts. Our particular school had to reduce staff by 3.5 FTEs. It ended up being the Spanish teacher, a math teacher that was already retiring, a half-time school nurse, and me, because there were 2 PE teachers. They felt they could sacrifice one. This district had a teachers union I was a part of. So being the newest and youngest, I wasn't able to find another position within the district. So with student loans looming and very few PE jobs available in the area I was in, I went looking for a new job. I had an aunt that worked at a local small rural hospital and mentioned they had a cardiac tech position open. And I thought to myself, well, that's like phys ed for people that are older and had a heart condition. So I got the job, and that's how I entered healthcare. Throughout my healthcare career, I have been afforded many opportunities for growth and learning. I've done work in emergency preparedness, infection control, patient safety, colleague safety, security, risk management, quality, and obviously performance excellence, performance improvement. I still have been able to stretch my coaching legs, though. I've been fortunate to help coach my kids growing up in their sports throughout the years: dance, tackle football, soccer, and I've been fortunate in that area to hang with them. And just to give you a sense of what kind of parent coach I am, I, or maybe my kids more so, resonate strongly with a meme that states, "I was late to practice and the coach made me run. My coach was my dad." So that's the kind of coaching parent that I am. With that, we're going to get started with this list of comparisons. I have 8. In the spirit of improvement, regardless of the field you're in, I truly hope that you can find a golden nugget or something to take back with you today, and to that connects with your PEX work that you're doing. Okay, so who remembers red light, green light? It's a simple game where all participants are lined up at one end of the playing area, and one lucky participant gets to be the leader. They stand with their back to everyone and yell, "Green light" or "red light." On green, kids can run toward the leader with the goal to be the first one and then get to be the new leader. On red, the kids must freeze in place and not move. The leader turns around, and if they see anyone who moves a muscle, they can send them back to the start. When people ask me what I do, since healthcare quality can mean all kinds of things, and generally it's just an unknown job to most, I tell them I count things. Charts, data, dashboards, action items, decision making, all these things make me think of this child's game. So this is an example of a chart that we house in KaiNexus. It's very simple, but from looking at this quickly, you can probably see that this metric was doing well in the beginning of the fiscal year and is now trending down and is not meeting the lower limit in March. And why is it so easy to assume that? Colors can do very helpful things. It can make interpretation more efficient. When reporting out to board members who aren't as familiar with various metrics or what the goal should be, it can be more user-friendly to view and understand. KaiNexus offers so many ways to display data. This is just the building block of many other visuals that we use in KaiNexus, dashboards and data grids. A comment that I get often from managers in my facility is they appreciate how everything updates from just one chart file. If I make a change to this chart, it will update anywhere else I've displayed that chart in dashboards, in projects, and all of those things. So that has always been great feedback that I get from managers. And part of my job is trying to make things easier for our managers. Next, I want you to reminisce on your younger days. Did you play a sport? Were you in a Boy Scout maybe? Did you participate in choir or band or maybe a church club? Picture that great coach or an adult that just had a positive impact on you, maybe even negative impact, so that that also motivates us. But let's focus on the ones we really have endearing thoughts. I'll bet that they were great coaches or teachers, not because they were easy or everybody's friend and nice, but because they supported you, they encouraged you to do better, to go farther, strive more. And then on the flip side, they were the first ones to clap, to cheer, to give high fives when you made a breakthrough or succeeded or they won the game. Coaches must be different types of encouragers to their groups. Just like a PEX professional, we must constantly be aware of how we're motivating and encouraging our teams. KaiNexus has really helped me, as well as our leadership, do those exact things. We are able to leverage the system to onboard new leaders. We have fun competition and recognition with gamification in our badges. We house and we track, we review all of our leader rounding and recognition activities. I've joked before that I'm a professional nagger. Managers get many, many reminders and follow-ups from me. That's what they pay me to do. So the newer KaiNexus feature of the auto email reminders are that really excites me. And it's been good to see the increased engagement and documentation asked of them, leveraging that feature to remind them to go do those things. Our leaders are also very driven by their emails. So it's super convenient to click on the link to complete their work. Also, the handy timeline at the bottom of any item is helpful for many reasons. KaiNexus gives us the ability of easy collaboration and communication on a multitude of projects and tasks. Managers are so much more engaged when the C-suite members or whoever their supervisor is logs in and clicks like on something that they did this week. They don't like documenting into dark holes. So it's nice that they are getting reassurance that somebody is looking at this and encouraging them on. So I taught PE at a middle school that included 6th to 8th graders. I had over 800 students. One particular class that I will never forget was a total of 80 preteens. 40 were assigned to me and about 40 assigned to the male PE teacher. If you've ever worked with kids, you understand the importance of organization and planning. I was responsible for half the student body coming in and out of our gym every day. It was every other day rotation. So not just keeping them together and safe, there was attendance, dressing out, grading points, documentation, behavioral issues, writing in their planners back when they were given paper planners. It was a lot of documentation, which is another fun little parallel to healthcare and process improvement. So we at MercyOne Newton use KaiNexus for all of these reasons here listed. Rounding was our initial reason for getting the system. We had a very intentional effort and strategic hope that we wanted to better our culture. And so we wanted a way to assign and document and track. Well, first of all, track that they were actually doing the rounding. That's hurdle number one. Educating and supporting and coaching leaders to do rounding is step number one. And some are not comfortable with it. And some find it hard to find time to do that. And so once you are able to see who's doing it and how often and what they're getting from that, tracking and documenting what they're doing, and then moving it to, well, what are we doing about it? So we're rounding, but what are we learning? Do we have places for process improvement so we can prompt a project? Do we have an area where we see some colleagues struggling with a particular issue like communication from leadership? What can we do to help support that? And it took some time too for our staff to be trusting in the fact that we were rounding to simply get feedback. They weren't there to tell them what to be doing or bad news or good news. They were simply listening and getting feedback from colleagues, from patients, and from providers. They also rounded on all of our huddles. All of our departments are expected to huddle daily. It's not meant to be long, but we do have a standard work. You're expected to go through the board and cover all of the items, share the huddle notes for the facility. And the icing on top of that cake is they're building relationships when they visit those huddles. Each department has one administrative member that will visit their one huddle a month at least to interact with them, to see their huddle board and be able to ask questions of that leader. Obviously, projects and improvements are in our KaiNexus environment. The flexibility that it gives us, not only projects, but just special situations that we want to track and keep track of. One of those is the new hires. All of our new employees at orientation are given a form called Get to Know You, and they fill it out. They tell us what their favorite meal is and their favorite song and how they like to be communicated with. What are they looking forward to? Maybe things they want to learn in their role. And that needs to be followed up on in 90 days. And there's a form that we have very specific questions. We want to make sure that staff person has one or two colleagues they can go to. Do they know where to go for things? Do they attend huddle? Would they feel comfortable running huddle? Do they know where the recognition postcards are? Just all of the things that are important to our culture and our our operations is checked up on. And so with my professional nagging, I remind them at 90 days. Well, I need reminded too, because every month we have a new orientation class. So I'm able to leverage a project file to house my tasks so they automatically become due in 90 days. And so that form is available. The manager, it pops up active on their list and they can take care of that and get it back to me. So lots of automations and reminders behind the scenes. It makes me look really, really good that I'm on top of things because I have a system that supports that work. A wide range of other things, QAPIs, any kind of key performance metric, whatever you call that type of work is in there. Our strategic plan and the things that are directly tied to that we're doing, our actions and our tactics. I already mentioned onboarding our leaders and just monthly manager tasks. I've encouraged and supported some managers that have their entire to-do list that comes due every month active in KaiNexus. So it just comes active and they click complete and it will come due again next month. So just a lot of automations and reducing wasteful paper, and we're not missing anything. So it can be very, very helpful for a wide variety of things other than just projects and improvement. So here is an example of our manager's default board when they first log into KaiNexus. And you can see that there's a wide range of items and workflows on this board. This definitely has changed over the years. If you would see the first draft that we had to now, we really have made a lot of updates. And I really appreciate the fact that I get to learn and make those changes. Our KaiNexus reps are amazing and helpful, and they do magical things. But if I want to change a location of a card or the color of the header or how it's filtered, I have the ability to do that quickly for managers. And that quick turnaround time really helps with engagement for sure, and their workflow. Let's see. It keeps us organized. It keeps our work transparent, especially it's up to date. I remember once upon a time when I have multiple Excel spreadsheets I have to go in and out of per department, per Excel spreadsheet to see, did they do their quarterly update? That is all very easy to see in the system, very easy for the manager to know what's due and what's overdue. It is our one-stop shop. And if I can get managers, especially new managers, to just go to their dashboard and get started there, they don't have to go into multiple systems and do various tasks. So, switching gears, I'm sure you have heard of Teacher Professional Development Days. Kids get to enjoy a day off, and teachers can have time to prep and possibly do trainings that the system requires of them or offers to them. My first professional development day, I had a few observations. Again, another parallel to performance excellence work. First was the teachers are horrible students. They talk. They don't pay attention. They do everything else except what they're supposed to be doing from either the principal or the presenter that's, expecting them to pay attention and participate. The second was that I was part of a special kind of group. The math teachers sat together, the science teachers sat together, the social studies teachers sat together, and I happened to be sitting with a group and we eventually called ourselves the Odd Bunch. Us PE teachers, the home ec teacher, the woodshop teacher, the music teacher, and the computer teacher. We made up this odd bunch, and we were randoms, not really fitting into these other teaching groups. However, we had a very different take on our students in our school. We were able to connect and collaborate on special projects for the kids so much more readily. And for example, we had a wellness grant. It gave us treadmills and computers and pedometers, which was a really big deal in a school system where, funds are low. The wellness grant really led the home ec teacher and I to collaborate. She worked on combining the healthy eating choices that are part of healthy growing kids into adulthood with the pedometers we had and the healthy activity education. We were able to reward students, recognize them for their work. We all had all of the kids in the school too. So just like I had 800 students, they all had the 800 students. Whereas some of the other teachers still doing important work and still had challenges just like us, but they got a portion of the students. The odd bunch certainly had a bird's eye view and could easily identify that things that could be related or that were influential of what was going on in the school system. If one department is working on a project and another department is working on something similar, you can be that bridge. And I think that can be so helpful, being that person that can see that bird's eye view, help them draw that value stream map out, help them map out that process, get out of them and ask them questions about how they perceive it when they're over here doing this, or if it's over here doing that. The looking at those processes from a different perspective really lends itself to better projects and better outcomes. Sorry. All right. The redheaded stepchild. I'm sure most everybody's heard this sentiment. The redheaded stepchild is really just a metaphor to me for those that feel left out and treated poorly. At each organization, both in the school systems that I've been in and healthcare organizations, I have heard many, many times, well, we're the redheaded stepchild. Then they proceed to list all of the problems they have. They share how unique their unit is compared to everybody else's and how they have special challenges that prevent them from doing work or succeeding with goals. And guess what? Everyone thinks they're the redheaded stepchild. Being a PEX leader includes having people observe one another, especially across units. There is huge steps and realizations that could be taken when maybe a surgery nurse goes and observes the med-surg unit that receives their patients. One pivotal story that I think of, especially with surgery and med-surg, was the surgery nurse thought, why can't you just take my patient? I give you my 10-minute Vocera heads up call. Why aren't you ready for me when I come over? Don't you know that I have to get back to my surgery patients? So he was willing to go watch med-surg and what it takes to get a room ready. And not just what it takes to get a room ready, but why they can't get it ready right away and all of the challenges that they have. And not to devalue the goal. We absolutely want good handoffs. The patient expects that and deserves that. But it really makes people look at it from a different perspective to be able to then process and prove together instead of the blame game. Let's see. Looking at objective data too. Not just experiencing and observing, but looking at, by shift or by department or by diagnosis, what we're seeing. And that helps, especially with healthcare people or engineers, people that are very data driven. That is a very helpful tool. And really making sure the issue is put in the perspective of the customer. For me in my current role, it's the patient. But insert whoever it is that you're creating this for or providing a service for or a widget or whatever it is that you're doing day in, day out. Getting a team to rally around a common goal is project altering. If everybody's in a different direction, we're not going to get very far, or there's personal agendas and those don't help either. This also touches on our former topic of coaches. I really like this quote from Hal Elrod. Replace your judgments with empathy, upgrade your complaining to gratitude, and trade in your fear for love. As the PEX professional, sometimes with the team members, you have to help or suggest adjusting the attitude or adjusting the perspective, and not to tell them that they're not feeling those things or it's wrong, but At the end of the day, here is the challenge. And what is our group going to rally to do to problem solve and get done the work? So certainly people can be frustrated, and we certainly have times where we're given decisions that we're not really always fully in agreement with, but we still need to provide care, or in my case, provide care to patients, and good care, good quality care. I think I have time. I will tell this story. I have a note to tell this story. When I worked in a facility that had a clinic, I was sitting in the receptionist supervisor office, and one of her staff members came in and was really upset with the health information management people, which is the people that hold all of our records. And this is prior to electronic records. So imagine your patient chart, which was paper in a folder. Somebody had come to the front of the clinic and asked to get their blood pressure taken. That is a normal request. We do that. So the receptionist overhead paged somebody to the front, and nobody came. This receptionist, sent another overhead page and then left for lunch. When they got back from lunch about 45 minutes later, that patient was still sitting there and had not been attended to. And so the assumption was that, where did that break down? They had an assumption that it was the records people because they didn't get us the paper chart. But in reality, it was a bad handoff. We didn't have a fail-safe process for something really simple. And by the way, this was a very pregnant woman who sat in a waiting room for over an hour by the time she got her blood pressure taken. So that's not good. Nobody would want that. And so when we went and process improved, though, it really had nothing to do with the chart. The chart was exactly where it needed to be. The fact that we could just overhead page in a clinic and assume somebody was on their way and then go to lunch, that's not good enough. And they felt horrible. But the blame game started immediately. And when we reformatted the issue into the perspective of the patient issue was a patient sat in the waiting room for an hour needlessly. And can everybody get around that goal? Absolutely. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that for themselves or the people that they are working with. And so we could make it a little more objective on how can we make it more foolproof or error proof that this patient gets their blood pressure taken, regardless of who's going to lunch, regardless of, many things that could interrupt that process. So. Once in a while, I would have a parent call upset, or I would hear through the principal that a parent was very displeased with me because their kid was failing gym. And a few times it was children that were very good athletes. They're rock stars on the football field or the basketball court, but they were getting an F in gym. This is where documentation was very, very helpful. I would show parents how the kid, wasn't bringing their gym clothes. They were tardy. Maybe they were missing lots of days in school. Maybe they didn't participate. They were causing problems in class. All these things that contributed to failing grade. And I would also sometimes, depending on how the conversation went, I would point out the attempts I made to work with that parent as well, writing in that planner or emailing or calling and not getting a response. And in the hope that we can get it on the right path. So I never graded kids for their ability, but I certainly had a point system that represented all of these things that, we're trying to make well-rounded adults. And so these responsibilities are more part of their grade than if they can make 10 out of 10 baskets. In performance excellence, sometimes our role is to keep the project moving, right? When something isn't getting done or there's some deadlines missed, quality output is poor, documentation transparency can be very helpful while navigating any kind of project or having to have those tough conversations of accountability. When we're disappointed with output or outcomes, we can't ignore those, especially if we've made this a priority. KaiNexus is probably the most transparent electronic platform I've ever used. While being able to control both like what leaders can see in the facility or leaders within a lineage of the organizational chart. So you can make sure their work is private within their work realm, but also upper management can see the whole house. All those working parts, and they're available to see to who needs to see them. And again, I'll bring up the timeline feature. That is incredibly helpful to be able to show the progression of things. And on a side note, it has also helped me remember what I did, because once in a while there'll be something wonky. Why did we defer this project? Why did this task get archived? Why, who was helping us with this? And it helps remind me, because some projects are not quick. They last a year or more. And so I can look in that timeline and go, oh, yes, it's because of this. And so it has helped me as well, just in trying to relive why we made some decisions or we're at the place that we're at. So this story, I will work to not get emotional. I was invited to attend a parent-teacher conference when I was a teacher, PE teacher. It's the kind where the teachers are all on one side of the table and the parents are on the other. Each teacher had a turn to tell the parent how bad the student was and how poor his grades were. This type of conference wasn't your typical parent-teacher conferences that you have twice a year. This was where this child was needing to change schools or be removed. And so it was kind of a critical time. And I had never been a part of something like that before. And I was utterly heartbroken and appalled, listening to the teachers share all this to the parent. I was last to talk because I'm the PE teacher. And all I could say was, he's always good for me. He's a joy to have in class. He always participates. He helps put equipment away. He never causes any problems in the locker room or in the gym. And just let me know how I can be part of the solution. If he wants to be rewarded with gym time for doing other things, I think I can help with that. I was 23 years old, and I'm not sure where I learned to respond like that. I certainly didn't do it to get any kind of self-satisfaction or recognition. Looking back at myself at that young age, I'm surprised. I surprised myself, especially since I can think back on all the mistakes I made as a teacher. As a PEX professional, I get to see the side of colleagues and operations that others don't get to see. Observation, working with staff through really hard problems. Patient complaints are not easy. Patient grievances are not easy. And sometimes we don't get it right. And those are tough things. Getting to the root cause and fixing those instead of putting Band-Aids. Allowing staff to vent. Having a safe place to really get out what they want to say. All parts of building trust and professional relationships. A PEX leader isn't going to be successful simply by making sure our project report is pretty and finished and sent to leadership. It takes a different kind of presence at different times. How can we take really smart people, well-intended people, and set them up for success? I don't know whatever came of that student. I think about him every time I'm working with a challenging kid, trying to think about, what are these precipitating factors, or what's going on in their life? What pieces am I missing? And then on the flip side, what part is positive? What do you like most about them? What are their strengths? Our staff and departments, we could do the same activity or questioning, in the workplace. Okay, so to bring this all together, I am really convinced that PE teachers and performance excellence professionals are chasing the health of our communities. We hope to raise and support our children in a way that gives them, nourishing food, ample physical activity time, enrichment opportunities, social interactions. We really want to see a healthy community growing and thriving. It benefits everyone. For performance excellence, people like us are always in the pursuit of improvement. We too want to feed the nourishment that our project teams need. They give them lots of ways to interact and grow so that the health of whatever your mission is gets strong and then stays that way. KaiNexus has been such a critical partner in our process improvement journey. Also with our company culture, and also, just being committed to always improving. Most of the time when we come to a challenge specific to KaiNexus, I've heard over and over, and not just by one KaiNexus representative, but multiple, we're here to improve. We're in the game to improve. And so, this here is a picture of my colleagues. This is right before COVID. I love it because there's no masks on. Everybody, you can see their smiling faces. We had celebrated our hospital's 100th year birthday. So much has changed with healthcare. And I'm sure, everybody that's on this call, the field that you're in, your company has a story, and much has changed. But for here at MercyOne Newton, our founding father had the same passion we do now to provide quality care to our really small community. These folks here that you're looking at, they do the hard stuff day in and day out. And I'm just happy to be the person that gets to capture it all in KaiNexus. So just thank you for taking time to listen to my stories. I hope I entertained and also gave you some things to write down for you to take back to your work. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, Shawna, thank you so much for a really engaging and insightful presentation. I think you did a great job of connecting dots, and I can't wait to hear what questions we have from our audience. So I'll give people time to submit those, please, using the Q&A button instead of the chat. And I'll make just a few announcements, and Shawna's contact info will be up on the slide that'll be showing during the Q&A. So if you could advance it, please. Just a few announcements. Now I feel you're talking about PE teacher. I feel like the person making the announcements over the PA system now. But yeah, if you could move it ahead, please. I'll try to do a good job with the announcements. I encourage you to sign up for the next webinar in our series. It's going to be April 8th on the topic of driving a culture of accountability. That's going to be presented by Lindsay Booty from Our Lady of the Lake Hospital. So it'll be our second presenter in a row coming from healthcare, and our second customer in a row. So I hope you'll join that session. And again, this, I think, like today, there's a lot to learn on this topic. So I encourage people from other industries outside of healthcare, please join us again for that session, April 8th. You'll get an email about that when registration is open. And we've got a library of well over 100 webinars that we've done in this series. If you go to kainexus.com/webinars, there's a big old button that says KaiNexus Webinars on Demand, like you see there. You can go and click through and view or listen to any of those. They're all free. Next, please. We invite you to also, in terms of free resources, check out our blog.kainexus.com. There's always a lot of great articles and insights written by our team of KaiNexians and customer case studies and other great info there. So we encourage you to check that out. And also, next slide, we have a podcast, the KaiNexus Continuous Improvement Podcast. You can subscribe through any podcast service that you use, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, which is a favorite of our CEO, Greg Jacobson, or you can go to kainexus.com/podcast. So the audio, if you want to listen to any of Shawna's stories again in the car or on a jog sometime, the audio of this and other webinars are also there in the podcast. All right, next. And as you leave, hopefully not now, but at the top of the hour after the Q&A, as you leave, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey a quick survey to get your feedback. This is important to us. This is not just an autopilot thing. We do read the feedback. We'll share feedback with Shawna, and we'd love to hear your ideas about topics that you would like to have us cover in future webinars. So please do take a few minutes. We really value that feedback. All right, and next. Okay, so there's Shawna's email address, and let's go into a few questions. One that's maybe a fairly quick answer in terms of a definition from one of your earlier slides, Shawna. What is QAPI or QAPI? I think you said.
Oh, yes, a quality assurance performance improvement. It is a term that in healthcare, when surveyors, either state or there's a couple other companies, Joint Commission is one notable, they'll ask you for your QAPI. So it's just kind of an acronym that we've had in healthcare, but it's what metrics are you looking at to make sure that patient care is quality, and are you that PDSA cycle?
Okay, thank you. Question on the coaching front. Did you watch the show Ted Lasso, and do you have thoughts on him as a coach or as a leader?
No, Ted Lasso. I'm going to have to.
Oh, it's on Apple TV Plus. I'm a big fan of that series, and he's from the John Wooden school of coaching, because that's somebody a real coach that the fictional Ted Lasso points to as a role model. But maybe as a kind of there's kind of a separate related question that if you don't know about Ted Lasso, do you have a favorite pro or college coach that you think is a good role model for leadership? Anyone that you kind of pay attention to?
I don't know if I have an opinion on who is a great one. I certainly have opinions on what I see when I watch sports on TV. I sometimes reflect would I behave the same way. I will say my favorite coach would have to be my college tennis coach. And I know he's not on the national scene, but
sure.
He was just somebody that you could tell genuinely cared about us. And once in a great while, he'd scream at us, but it wasn't because he was mean or a bad person. Right. He was in it with us, and, to get faster, to get better, to be more accurate. And at the time, sometimes we really hated him. Pool workouts sucked, but somebody like that just, there's a lot of good in that. And I don't condone abuse or that type of thing. But yeah, just being in it with you and working just as hard and doing things himself that he asks us to do. Those types of things really, really stand out to me when I see coaches like that.
Yeah. Now, is there an example of the behavior that maybe you don't like to see when you're watching? Like, you talk about choosing your moments to show some emotion or to be angry might be more effective than the coach who seems angry all the time. I see a lot of that, like in the college ranks.
I don't understand why things get thrown, like a chair or that physical expression. Maybe that comes from my background with behavior disorder students and security, where, physical safety is so important, and, what can we do to prevent and de-escalate? And I also don't think that yelling should be your go-to. If a coach gets wound up and upset or stern, raises their voice, it should cause someone to stand up and pay attention, not go, oh, here we have to endure this again. I have a current leader in my current role, and he is very good to work with, but he expects excellence. He expects, good quality. He expects us to report out to him when things are not working right. He expects an answer or some ideas to get it done. And I think I can count maybe 2 or 3 times where I've seen him very stern, wasn't yelling, but got his message across that he was disappointed, and this isn't going to be tolerated. And it causes people to stand up and get moving, and not because he's a bully or mean. It's because we know the expectation, and it's his job to pull us there. So I hope that's a helpful answer.
Yeah. Maybe this is related. Do you have thoughts on finding the balance between praising good behaviors and good results versus pointing out opportunities for improvement, or trying to, kind of coach in a corrective sort of way?
So ask that one more time.
So like finding the balance between praising the good versus pointing out or coaching up when there's either a behavior issue or a performance problem.
Yeah. I tend to default to what I was taught in school, and that is to give 5 compliments or good things to every bad. So I think the point is awareness. And if you are always praising, but not working on those opportunities, or even just minimum standards aren't being met, you're missing the boat. Flip side, if you constantly are going to, if there are healthcare workers on this call, you could probably understand the ER is just it's a interesting place in healthcare, because people come in stressed, anxious, and upset. You don't get to build rapport very well with people because they're in and out. And we constantly go to the ER and say, you're not getting EKGs done in 10 minutes. You're not meeting your patient satisfaction scores. We don't have enough. There's a lot of things that really rag down on the ER. And in those situations, we absolutely have to find things that lift them up and get excited. And, it could just be one patient comment that said, you guys really helped me. And you got to do that too. So the overarching suggestion is you have to balance it and be conscious of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks, Shawna. There's a question. I'm going to read through this again. Okay. So there's a question regarding the slide, he's always good for me. Mm-hmm. The person says, I had an experience where my son was a bully in school. When I addressed this issue to the principal, her response to my concern and the problem was, quote, what do you want me to do? I'm guessing that's what the tone was. That was a surprise. Referring to your webinar associated with leadership, we face the same issue in any environment. How would you solve a similar problem? I'm going to paraphrase. How would you solve a similar problem without making things worse?
So I guess it doesn't. My first clarifying question was that the student was the bully, or they were being bullied. Maybe it doesn't matter.
I think it might be where maybe Caroline, if you can put a bit of a clarification, because the way it was written,
I guess
it's not totally clear to me if bully or bullied.
If we're going to assume that your child's being bullied and you go to school and they say, what do you want me to do about it? That's unfortunately a reality sometimes for people. And to parallel that with working environment, there have been some books I have read. I don't know what I'm at liberty to say on here, but, just drama in the workplace and, workplace productivity. There's ways to work with each other that doesn't give you an ultimatum like that, in my opinion. So if one of my staff members comes to me, or I go to my leader and I say, this person isn't doing their job, for example, and they say to me, well, what do you want me to do about it? I would hope instead that there was a productive conversation, like, wow, really? That doesn't sound like that person. Why do you think that might be? What can we do to help that person? What can we do? I'm not saying these are the exact questions for, bully situation. That's a different kind of thread with our children. But, when I'm the leader, if you're going to come to me and tell me something is wrong, then we have to be part of the solution. And then there's other times too, where a manager comes to me and says, I can't get anywhere with this. This other department is doing X, Y, and Z, or they're not doing something. And so I try to be the objective person and say, well, what data do you have to show? And, do we have anything to help paint that picture other than this manager's coming to complain again? Because, some people have not learned those skills to bring up problems in a productive
Mm-hmm.
way,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe didn't have a manager, or they had a manager that allowed them to behave negatively,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that got them what they wanted. So if people are interested in the books I'm talking about, I'm happy to email them to them. But I just think there's productive ways to channel discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think what do you want me to do is that necessarily bad of a question if it's worded a little differently. The sentiment is, how can I help? What is your expectation? What does resolution look like? And be able to talk through that. Because I think sometimes we are at a loss. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. So engaging in that dialogue, I think, is the key.
Yeah. I mean, I remember a leader that I was working with. It was a laboratory director who was really trying to change a behavior where if staff member A had an issue with staff member B, staff member A would come and run to the director. And, the director was trying to teach people that they have to learn how to navigate a disagreement or conflict, or to give feedback on a more peer-to-peer basis, that it wasn't really sustainable or scalable, to always come running to the director every time you had a problem. So I think, I'd be curious your thoughts on, a situation of, taking the time to try to address it versus taking the time to equip someone to address it.
My first thought always is we think that this stuff is common sense, and it's not. Conflict resolution, we have conflict our whole lives, and most of the time we are unproductive with it. And so what I have experienced is being fortunate to be able to have healthcare systems, both at my prior hospital and here, that, invest in some professional development, learning what my communication style is, learning what others' communication style is, how people are motivated, just even that self intro, perspective, or I can't come up with the word, but that introspective part where you're conscious of how you are and how you respond and how that affects others and how others affect you. That takes practice. We would never send a brand new person that's never worked security into a physical issue in the ER without any training. And so I don't know why we think we try to do it with conversations in conflict resolution in the workplace. So I think, one, we think everybody knows how to do it and they just don't, and that's not true. And then two, we need to practice some of these things that we've learned as you're seeking out, whether it's through a book or WebExes or a trusted mentor, or it's the leadership development your company is giving. You can look at those as pain in the butt type things and you're wasting your time and you got stuff to do at the office, or you can use it to better how you talk and work with people, because you need to grow in those areas. We don't learn that real well. We learn from our parents or whoever we were raised with, and there's a wide variety of ways to do that.
Yeah. There's a couple people who asked about a book list. Can you include that in the notes that you're going to put together, Shawna, and we'll send that out in the follow-up email that
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So that'll be coming out via email tomorrow, along with the link to the recording and all. There's another question asked, wondering, can you tell us about the size and structure of your PEX organization and how that has possibly changed over time?
Yeah. At my former hospital, it was also a small hospital. When I say small hospital, I say that means we have less than 25 patients every day in our beds. So this is not a large facility by any means. There's several on the call that have hundreds of beds and systems. But my structure at my first hospital was all managers were trained in lean process improvement and were expected to be doing their projects. And we had a coordinator, and then I was an assistant. So 1.5. However, we weren't just performance excellence. We were also doing our joint commission readiness, patient safety, event reporting, all the different parts of quality. And then we had a reduction in staff, and I became the leader of the performance excellence, and nobody else was hired to do that afterwards. However, it was a very big expectation that it was the managers that had to own their units, run their business units, and I was to help all of them and kind of corral all of that and document all of that. At the hospital I'm at now, I have a team of 3 people, and the 4 of us, I would say it's almost 4 FTEs, not quite. I have a half-time and 1 person that's a 0.9. We do all the things: quality, infection control, patient advocacy, state surveyor readiness, all of that, performance excellence. However, the nice part about us is, since we all have our own little niche of quality, we're in all of the areas of the hospital. My quality RN can do performance excellence on the floor out when she's being house soup, or if she runs down to lab to help draw patients. So we are right at the bedside, right at the work. So a small hospital affords us those things. We just do not have staff structure. We do leverage our system structure. We are part of the Trinity Health family. And so we certainly have a performance excellence section of our company that I'm connected to. And if we would need to do something bigger and grander than what we can do on our own, they certainly can come help do those things. But we really don't have a department in our hospital for that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Shawna. And I don't see any other questions. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. I know people have other meetings to go to. So Shawna, thank you so much. Again, Shawna Forst, from MercyOne in Iowa. Thank you for a really, really creative and interesting presentation. Appreciate your stories, both from PE and coaching days, and I think there certainly were a lot of leadership lessons for the rest of us to think about and bring forward into our own work. So I'll let you share if you have a last word. If you just want to say farewell, I'll let you end things.
Yeah. We're all in this together, making things better, and we all have things to share and learn from each other. And I think that's what's great about a community of performance excellence people, regardless of where you're working.
Right. We have a few thank yous coming in. Thank you. Great presentation. So, okay. I know I said I'd give you the last word, but that's an even better note to end on. Great job, Shawna. And thanks again.
My pleasure.